All right, 6:05, five after. Let's get started. All the speakers are here. Before I hand it over to Caroline, I just want to welcome everyone to our AMA. I know it's been a while since our last AMA. We'll try to get these on the books more often, at least once a month. And now that we have staking out, I think we'll have a lot to talk about today. So apologies for the 1 week delay, but I think it was pretty necessary just with everything going on with staking, and we wanted to really make sure that it got out the door to talk about it and have more days of players playing and being able to share their experiences as well. So this AMA is me, Ian. I know I'm on the ZED account, so I'm Ian, head of players. We got Nick, head of product. We got Ryan, I don't know his title, chief of staff. And then we got Caroline, head of comms. So Caroline, I will hand it over to you, and we can kick this off and start the agenda topics.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ian. And totally agree. I think this is going to be a great spaces. It's been a week, like you said, since we've launched staking, so I'm sure everyone's got a lot to say. I know that we've got a bit to impart, and Ian, as you all know, always has something cheeky to leak, so we'll wait for that at some point. I'm sure there'll be something that will come up that he won't be able to resist telling you. So today we're going to run through season 1, a bit about fast follows, filters, outstanding bugs. Then Nick's going to take us through staking, and Ian and Ryan are going to talk us through the economy, the treasury. Nick's going to tell us a bit about ZED Picks, which is now live on Android and iOS, so it's pretty exciting. And then we are going to do the Q&A, where anybody, including you, my blood, Tempest, can come up and ask questions and chat. Yeah, we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ian to talk through season 1.
Yeah, so let's talk about the urgent game updates, specifically around staking and the game marketplace. All payouts for staking should be resolved and reprocessed in the next hour towards the end of the racing cycle. How this bug came about is we have to reprocess the horse once it races, and so that's why it's kind of on a per cycle basis. I think the devs have done a really good job at continuing to track and reprocess the payments that are missing or stuck, if you will, with the corresponding retired horses. But we are in a really good spot where every single payout should be resolved in this next cycle, the cycle we're in right now. The goal is to have a permanent fix so this doesn't happen again, being released later tonight. If we do find a couple stragglers that get through, they will, of course, be reprocessed in the next cycle, and we'll just continue until everything is button tight. Another game update from today is the marketplace issues. That has been resolved. That was a third-party provider. Maybe Nick will talk a little bit about where our marketplace will go in the roadmap, but as of right now, we are still using Reservoir, and since they are shutting down, we are going to have to move on to another marketplace provider at some point this year. So those are the urgent game updates. For bug prioritization and fast follows for season 1, obviously staking was the flagship feature. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. But we also want to make sure we're constantly deploying quality of life updates to the game. That includes, and I know, look guys, I feel you with some of these bugs that have been around, and I am working closely with Nick, who is also working very closely with the devs to make sure that we're calling them quick wins for some of these bugs that have just been around for far too long. That includes can viewing the last race of the round, which is obviously where all the top horses race. This includes live 3D stream issues, specifically in mobile. Sometimes you can't even watch the 3D stream in mobile. This includes marketplace and auction filter fixes. because obviously we've talked about it a lot. The marketplace, specifically the filtering system, is pretty bad, and we need to improve it. And this also includes small mobile fixes like the help widget responding when you click on it, or making all horses in the game clickable so you can go to their horse profile page, which of course is very important now that we have staking out, that you can easily get to any horse's profile page, and if they're in the racing pool, you can stake on their career. So this is kind of everything that we're working on to release as quick fixes in the next few weeks. This is not future seasons. This is the next few weeks. In addition to these bug fixes and improvements, we also have some fast follow features. And fast follow features aren't anything huge like staking, but they are designed to help with the overall experience of the game. This would include staking UI improvements. We've gotten a lot of feedback in the Discord of just having a breakdown of stakers, right? And who is staking what. And right now that's not very clear. So we're going to release staking UI improvements as a fast follow. We're going to release overall UI improvements as a fast follow. Stable sorting and filtering. So if you notice, if you have a lot of horses in your stable, you don't know how to organize them, right? Because there's no way to filter or sort them. This will help with stable owners that have a lot of horses. And then finally, and this is another roundup for staking, leaderboard filters. And this will help people go to the actual racing pool leaderboard and find the horses that they want to stake on much easier than it currently is. So that kind of encompasses everything in the short term for season 1. We've got the urgent game updates, we've got the bug prioritization, and we've got the fast follows. Expect the fast follows and the bug prioritizations to continue hitting in the next few weeks. They're not going to all come at once. They're usually going to come maybe once or twice in a release until we kind of deplete that list of quick fixes.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. It's pretty great that the majority of those are real like pain points, as you mentioned, currently for the community, and everybody's really taken the time behind the scenes, the devs, to notice that and to work on that and to release them this season, which will be awesome. So now we're going to hand over to Nick, who's going to talk us through staking.
Thanks, Caroline, and yeah, thanks, Ian. Ian really talked about a fair amount of what I was going to touch on for staking, but just again wanted to shout out everyone for being part of this staking release journey with us and continuing to provide feedback, as we are early on with this feature and want to make it better and better. We know this is a really unique part of the game where people can then start rooting for horses together, and it can be an exciting moment, not just for one person, but for many people when a new great horse is bred. So it's a really fun feature and something that we are definitely going to be spending more time to improve upon. And that's what I'll also touch on, some of the upcoming features and what our plan is, just as in more of a general sense, because what we've seen for the first few seasons is we've really been trying to pump out exciting updates each season and get something big, brand new coming into the game. And through that, we've certainly been, letting some of these quick fixes, as Ian touched on, go by and sit on the sidelines. So that's something that now that staking is out, we've really been able to make an adjustment and shift that to make sure that we can spend more time on these things. And whether they are small but really annoying issues for some players, or if they're more critical but not necessarily a giant feature, that's something we want to make sure we're upping the standard and the quality of this game. And so we can really spend over the next few seasons ironing out a lot of those different experiences. So we'll be doing that for sure, and taking in your feedback and continuing to add some of those features like the leaderboard filters and some of the staking breakdown details that Ian touched on. I will also call out referrals. So I think this will be a fun aspect of the game. And now that we have staking live, this is something that you can then bring in new players, and we do want to incentivize you and reward you and the new player for coming in and trying it out. Now there's a perfect way to get started. Obviously, ZED Champions is not one of those Web3 games that's free to play and play to earn as you grind up that whole way, but we do want to help people get started and make that process as easy as possible. So referrals is something we certainly want to add into the game, and we're trying to figure out the best way to go about that. So that process has just kicked off as well. But really, we do want to make sure we're taking our time with these things and getting better and better with each seasonal release, so that each one is more exciting than the last one, and each one feels better than the last one. So that's really what we're focused on for the next few seasons. With that, there obviously has to be a trade-off, and that's going to be augments, which to be fair, I think is okay for right now for the full augment release. And if you've been a part of any of these AMAs in the previous few months or even year or so, augments has come a long way, and it's still ready, and we're all excited to have the full augment slate in there. And some of these designs that maybe will leak in Discord that have been coming out from our visual team look really cool, but at the same time, we know there are more critical things right in front of us that we need to get to. So that's our approach for the next few months, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. And shout out as well to JC, who I know is listening. He's our UX designer, and he has come up with some awesome designs for augments moving forward, but also season 1 and season 2 that everybody's currently working on. So we have got quite a bit to look forward to. Now I'm going to hand back to Ian and also Ryan. I'm going to talk a bit about the economy and treasury. Back to you, Ian.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey,
so
just quietly also, that hey, I just recognized that from some video or something recently. I don't know. Voiceover maybe?
Yeah, I did do the ZED
24/7.
24/7. Hey, yeah. We
Okay,
did
off you go.
a few informational videos for ZED Champions and ZED Picks, and I am the VO for these, which I actually did some voiceover for my last studio, so I'm basically a paid professional, which is
There you go. Hey.
hey.
Winning.
Okay, so for the game treasury, I'll touch on the game treasury side of things, and then I'll hand it over to Ryan for overall economy. Okay, guys, so the game treasury and the current payouts that we're doing on a daily and weekly basis. This would include the champion circle. This would include the stud circle, the stud lottos. This would include the weekly bid and the weekly burn bonuses. And of course, this would include the retention bonuses that I know so many people love in our community. We have had a lot of meetings on this topic very recently, and we are also looking at all the feedback that you guys give in Discord. So we appreciate people like Kaiju and Tempest who have reached out with suggestions and have posted, and there are many more, Catapult and Lupo, just to name a few. We really do. We might not respond to all of them, but we are looking at all of them, all of the feedback, and we are we're really trying to get this right. Okay, so let's start with, we are going to, in the next week, we're going to refresh or revamp how we are doing our treasury payouts. This would include everything I just mentioned in the daily and the weekly payouts. Some will stay, but most will go, right? We will have kind of a refresher of what these payouts are going to be. I'm not going to go too much in depth of what they are, although I will tease that lotto style payouts are going to be a part of the daily and weekly payouts. But the main news is that retention bonuses will be removed. We are no longer going to be doing retention bonuses, and we're not going to be using specifically the game treasury, to fund these retention bonuses. Any retention efforts that we do in the future will be a part of the VHS portion of the breeding fees. So it's that 15% that goes to VHS that will cover any retention bonuses that we do in the future. That will also include any user acquisition or marketing efforts or any partnerships as well. So we have been listening to the community, and we think that this should be a part of the VHS cut going forward. And for the game treasury, we are going to refresh the daily and the weeklies. So stay tuned on that. That's coming next week. And then Ryan, if you want to cover any economy news, I know the token is doing pretty well.
Yeah, so a few extra things to add on, overall our perspective on the treasury, kind of the methodology that we inherited from ZED Run, and how we're trying to really reframe our perspective on how these funds and these splits work, right? So obviously we have two objectives as the economy managers of ZED Champions. The first thing is going to be to always look to retain as many users as possible, right? We understand fundamentally that this is a game about winning. This is a game about creating good horses and getting horses to the top of the racing pool, attracting a bunch of stakers, and really reaching that level of champion, right? And functionally, to support an economy like that, you need to have some of those retention mechanisms in place. I definitely understand that there's been a pretty big misalignment between where those funds should come from, and that's really why we're making this change, because we think you guys are right. We think that it is important that these payments are coming from us, because obviously these users are very valuable to us. But again, why should the players be paying for retaining other players, right? It doesn't really functionally make as much sense as maybe we had initially anticipated. So now that being said, we also have another function, which is to incentivize everybody to reach the top of the game, right? And to keep that flywheel really moving. And we do believe that there are two really key parts of the game here that we want to focus on with this refresh of rewards that Ian is alluding to. And obviously there will be some more information coming out. But the long story short is, the beginning of a horse's career, when it's most unknown and most exciting and most anticipatory with new stakes, is a big area of a focus for us. And then obviously the top of the game, the horses that attract the most attention, the horses that will really make ZED Champions speak out loud to the external market and really fuel ZED Picks, and why we feel like ZED Picks can be really compelling into the future. So those will be our two main areas of focus, and we'll have a bunch more information coming on that. Now, moving on a little bit to our broader, economic guidelines and what we're really looking to do. So you guys have seen the impact of us swapping over ETH into ZED from the player treasury, all of the stuff that we needed to bring over from ZED Run. And that methodology, right, this idea that long-term, there are two things that we're trying to do. We're trying to bring more users into the ZED token economy, and we're trying to bring more USD-based injections into the ZED token economy. If you look at some of the biggest tokens on the market that are having a bunch of success, regardless of how ETH is moving, there are people like Hyperliquid, DYDX, Jupiter, and some of these either, huge exchanges that right now in this market are doing a lot of the volume, right? They are taking fees on every single trade. Everybody's here just to send money from A to B and trade the next meme coin, et cetera. So these exchanges have been wildly popular and have made a lot of money. What they've been doing with that money in cases like Hyperliquid are committing a decent portion of those USD/ETH-based revenues into supporting the underlying token that represents the protocol. This is not a novel, mechanism. This is something that Apple has been doing for, decades and is a major practice in basically any type of, currency design. Our goal is to eventually emulate this using ZED Picks. We understand that ZED Picks is much more scalable than Web3 and crypto. It's obviously in the App Store and Google Play Store. There are very well tried and true roadmaps for scaling an app of this type. We are in contact with plenty of people who are going to help us do that. And this is when we really start to leverage Nir as our CEO. He has a lot of history, of course, scaling apps. This is really what we brought him in for long term. The connection between how do we build a spectator engagement umbrella around this digital horse racing game of high stakes, and what can that do for the underlying games economy. So it's going to be a really big focus moving forward, and we will have a lot of information coming around this. And the last little nugget that I'll have on the token is that we're currently aggressively pursuing centralized exchange listings, and we hope to have some really good news coming on that in the future. Cool. I can pass it back to you guys.
That's great. One person that I forgot to shout out who has been huge in his feedback is Pushin. So Pushin, big shout out to you as well. And I actually take back the Lupo shout out because he flamed me in Discord for shouting him out.
Funny. Okay, so now we're going to hand over to Nick, and we're going to talk a bit about ZED Picks, and then we're going to do a Q&A. And if you want to drop comments, you can drop comments in Discord. We can pick them up. You can drop them here on the spaces, or you can request to come up and speak.
Yeah, I was hoping we were just going to have a silence for a good 2 minutes
At
after.
least 10 more, dude, at least 30 more seconds. Funny.
Funny. Cool. Yeah, let's talk about ZED Picks. Sorry for cutting you off, Caroline.
No, you're good. You're good.
Cool. So yeah, like Ryan talked a little bit about how ZED Picks plays a part into the whole ecosystem, and happy to answer any more questions about it, but more specifically just want to talk about the app and the progress that's been made. So really we got into, just to recap for those who aren't aware, we worked with an outside studio to get to really where we are with the app and what you see today live on the App Store. If you're in the US, you can download it on both Apple and Android, which is super exciting. That process is not a fun one, especially the back and forth sometimes. If you aren't aware, the lack of details and the times where they don't read what you are actually telling them you changed or don't need to change, even though they wrote something. It was quite a process, but we are currently live, which is super exciting. And you can go in and watch the live races on your phone, which obviously you could do before, but now you can create some tickets and enjoy and have a reason to watch every single race. So that is step one, but we have a long ways to go. So we recently, I would say as of about a month ago, have been transitioning the app from the external team into the internal team. So we're bringing it in-house, and that way we'll be able to iterate and make changes quicker. Just something that we were seeing as we got closer to the finish line with the external team. We weren't able to necessarily give feedback and make some of those changes as fast as we wanted to. So if you follow along with the app, you'll see a lot of fun and impactful changes over the next few weeks, I would say. And really our plan is to only ramp it up from there and add in new ways to play the game. And a big part of it, which is not in right now, is Zcash. So Zcoin right now is the only way to play. That's our social currency. That's where you can play for fun and bragging rights. And you'll see some promotions with that currency going out in the upcoming months, as well as Zcash, where that's our sweeps currency that you can actually exchange for real rewards. And that's what we are definitely most excited for players to get their hands on and start playing with. So those are some of the updates. In terms of what you can do right now, it might feel a little tight and restricted, but at the same time, we would love any and all feedback. We really do want to make this game for all you players so that you can continue watching these races and enjoying and have a reason to spectate all of these races that you might not own the horse in.
Yeah, agree. Like it's a big part of, I guess, the loop, and also bringing in, that sort of like user acquisition, people who aren't crypto native or don't really understand Web3. It's a good introduction space for them to come and spectate and really see what ZED Champions is about, and hopefully entice them into the space.
Yeah, I think one last thing that you bring up a good point, but if you just look at the space in general, and I know there's a lot of people who talk about especially if you look online, the sweepstakes space has been like a rocket ship and really blowing up and really expanding, and a lot of that focus is on casino games, and for good reason. They're obviously doing well, but we really do feel like we've not only got a special spot from a horse racing perspective, but also with ZED Champions as the background, we have something behind it that is meaningful and really legit compared to just putting out some horse videos that people can make picks on. So there's a lot of depth to it and a lot that people can learn and then start to really get familiar with when they start looking at all of your stables and, seeing names that they recognize and growing attached to them. So really excited about where this product can go, and it really just is the beginning.
Yeah, it definitely is. Right, now we're going to open up to anyone, really, who, if you've got any questions, if you want to come up and ask the team anything.
We can also use Discord chat, the general channel. If you don't want to ask an actual question over voice, you can use the general chat channel in Discord to type your question.
That is true.
The first one was by Lupo. Why does Caroline hate Ian?
So many reasons, but I don't want to go into it. No.
Let's see. We have Fanzo is requesting to speak. Approve. There's a little bit of a delay, but you should be able to speak in a second.
What's up, friends?
Hey. Yes.
Hey, love all the updates, guys. Love all the lots of moving parts. Appreciate the idea of kind of some of the bug prioritization and enjoying the different dynamics with not only ZED Picks but also the staking. I'm curious, just from if you looked at it from we talked about referrals and kind of the overall onboarding. How are you guys looking at it from the kind of bridging people in that are starting with ZED Picks kind of over into ZED Champions? Is the staking the next step, or is it them getting a horse the first step? What are you guys' thoughts on just kind of that onboarding? I think for those that from the game, from owners wanting our horses to be staked against, but also just kind of looking at that growth. How do you guys see that kind of happening as you kind of scale?
Yeah, I'll start with this one, and I'm sure Ryan and Ian have thoughts as well, but really good question, and it's one that we've had a lot of internal discussions to start with in terms of the possibilities of things we can do in ZED Picks to directly integrate with the game. So you talked about that, having them first start with staking or owning a horse, or what does that process look like? I think the simplest way to do it will be exposing the ZED Champions within the app and just having ways for them to see, oh, do you want to own your own horse? Well, come here to check out ZED Champions, or go and go through the staking funnel as well. We are working on a new Fatui, which is first time user experience, which I guess some of you probably won't see, but it is going to help out new players coming to ZED Champions specifically. And staking is a big part of that, right? That's why we do want staking. We think that's a much easier way for people to come in and onboard the game. So having that in ZED Champions ready for all of these Picks players to, when they first come over and see that be their first experience, that's exactly where we want them to go. But we're also looking at a lot of ways when I'm talking about different gameplay methods in ZED Picks. Right now, the current way to play is you watch a race, and if you won, then you won. If you lost, then you lost, and that's it. Staking and owning a horse is a much longer process, right? And that's a much longer game of seeing this horse over multiple races, if not multiple weeks of races. And we're trying to figure out the best way to integrate that type of feeling or gameplay so people could have a similar experience of, oh, it's about time I got a notification, open up my ZED Picks app and see a horse race. I've got, something tied to that, and then I am cheering for this horse, and after it races, I'll set a reminder for, the next race coming up. But there's a lot of complexities in terms of tying these two together that require a fair amount of conversations, but I guess to wrap all of that up, there's the simple ways of, funneling them over, and then there's the deeper ways that we're certainly exploring as well. I don't know, Ryan, Ian, if there's anything I missed with that.
I'm in the Discord trenches, bro.
No, that was good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was pretty comprehensive, to be fair. Fanzo, I hope that answers your question. We've got a few questions coming in Discord. What do seasonal rewards look like, and does staking count for the owner or staker's daily active balance? That's from Top Me Up.
Yeah, it's a good question. Ryan's kind of already leaked this, that we are going to include staking in some capacity. We will release more details next week when we kind of do this revamp of the game treasury payouts. But staking will be included as part of the seasonal rewards. And we're also looking, a little bit of a spoiler, but we're also looking at moving up the rewards so that they're not all, you don't have to wait until the very end of the season to get them. Maybe we move them up leading up to the end of the season.
I knew there had to be a spoiler somewhere along
a little one. There's a little one.
Just a little one. Okay, so Wissy Mac wants to know, Elite 8 is currently an instant retire zone without being the top 2 to 3. Are there any plans to prevent insta retire for any horse that makes the 8?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So, yeah, one of the things that hasn't happened yet in the game, because staking is so new and the season is really only halfway through, is us really starting to see this recalibration of the racing pool from the perspective that the horses at the top aren't far enough away yet from where their initial balances really are, given the current cost to breed like a 4 or 4.5 star, right? Or horses that are most likely to produce a 4 and a 4.5 star. If you're spending $300K, $200K, whatever it is to breed with those horses, you start out at $100K and instantly get staked up to $300, $400, $500K. The top horse is only 1.1 million, right? So you're instantly looking at this situation where you're like, oh my God, I need to make so much in order for us to work. The thing that hasn't happened yet is that the middle part of the racing pool is extremely flat, right? We really only start to see these kind of exponential growth in horse balances towards like the top 100 right now. Over time, as the matchmaking algorithm starts to play and, horses compete against each other later into the season, post-staking, new horses come in with a ton of balance and either perform or don't perform, we will see these top horses in the game, not specific ones, just the top horses by definition, the top 80 to the top 200, really start to spread away from what the initial balances that you're seeing for the average breed are. Now, that's just a function of the underlying systems, right? The second thing is that we need to have distribution of treasury rewards, at least in some form, going to the top of the game, right? And long-term, the thing that's supposed to make that extremely sustainable is the scaling of ZED Picks, right? So what we're effectively doing right now is incentivizing user behavior in less than, ideally sustainable ways, because we're still trying to scale, that long-term growth hack, right? Which is having the spectator loop. So because of that, we're using the treasury, right? And that's why we're saying we need to, recalibrate how we're doing that. We want to refresh it. We want to take your feedback. We want to make sure it still feels good to be a horse in the top 80, right? That should really mean something. And what we're currently working with is obviously not as efficient as we would like it to be. So we've been having a bunch of internal conversations about this, and part of this refresh that's coming should make it feel a lot better to be up there, both as an owner of a horse in the top 80 and also as a staker of a horse in the top 80. So I'm looking forward to some more information coming out on that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Salah Stables, roadmap accountability. The public roadmap has not been updated or acknowledged for some time, which raises concerns about the project's direction and transparency. Could you clarify when we can expect specific timelines or release dates for both previously announced and upcoming features?
I could take at least a little bit, and then I'll hand it over to Nick, because we did talk about this in Discord when it came to staking, right? And we didn't want to commit to a date and say, hey, staking is coming on this day. And I still think that's the right move. I don't think we need to commit to a specific date, because then all of a sudden people are disappointed if we miss that date. Internally, we're trying to rush something and maybe it's not ready just to hit a milestone. I do agree. We we'll continue to be transparent about what is coming on the roadmap, just what we've talked about in the beginning of this AMA. We discuss everything that's being worked on in the terms of quick fix bugs, in the term of fast follows this season. We didn't say exact dates, but we said next week or the next 2 weeks, specifically with these live op changes in the game treasury. So we are being transparent. It's just, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where we're saying it's going to be on this date. I think we're going to be as transparent as we can without saying too much specifics that will ultimately might have to get changed, especially as we're working with a bunch of stuff internally.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, it's something where we know there's going to be some flexibility needed as well. So that is a bit of what I talked about before with pushing the full set of augments back. Is we know we need to give ourselves more time to do some of the features that have been requested and talked about and actually put those into practice. And then also with staking, we're going to find things that we didn't even think about or need you all to really help us discover and then focus and work on. So we are certainly always ready to tell you what is actively being worked on and what we're trying to do. I know we had an AMA with the Discord where we showed some of the active bugs and features being worked on. So maybe we can bring back those visuals once a month or something in terms of trying to hit the high level roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely. And the patch notes now as well, we're sharing also on a weekly basis in the newsletter. So that's something you can also look at and review. And as Nick and Ian said, we're always willing to share what we're working on. We definitely have a roadmap for, season 1. We're working on season 2 and season 3 is planned as well. So there are definite attributes we can talk to, and then we can, we just don't want to put dates necessarily by those. Okay.
That was a great thing about the patch notes. Just real quick, patch notes come out every week in the ZED Champions newsletter.
That's what I just said.
I'm saying it was a good call out because I'm not sure if a lot of people know. But if you do, if you're wondering where we're keeping the patch notes, we just started this, I think 2 weeks ago. We started releasing patch notes, and we will continue doing this on a weekly basis in the newsletter.
Yeah.
Didn't need the flame.
I'll take like the next couple of questions that I see because they're all kind of along the same topic. So we're having a lot of questions now about horses, for example, that are either already queued for retirement or have been racing since the beginning of the season or literally since the drop, right? And kind of maybe those users lapsed, whatever it is. I know for a fact that there are horses who've been racing, nonstop since, even though they're obviously well past endurance. So for us, we track very closely how many retirements are manual, and you guys obviously know that there's forced retirements. The issue that we've been running into is that in the current state, the game is not getting more breeds than retirements, right? So obviously, what can we do? What levers do we have to actually try to increase that? You've seen us do bounties specifically, right? Different treasury distributions before the system was kind of fully built out with staking. We would incentivize, more studs, more bids, etc. What we would like to get to is a situation where basically every day of the total retirements in the game, somewhere between let's say 1 to 5% of those are forced retirements, which means we're just steadily kind of pulling all of the horses at the bottom of the racing pool out over time and kind of increasing the quality and really trimming off the bottom. We can't do that right now, and this hasn't been happening, aka why those horses are still there, because the manual retirement queue has not been basically depleted yet, right? We haven't gotten to a point where we've been able to bring that number all the way down to 0, which would then trigger forced retirements, which means we go all the way down to the bottom of MMR and we start to clean out those horses, right? So this upcoming refresh of Treasury, right, how we're going to try to redistribute funds around in order to, boost breeding, boost retention within the the first 10 races of the career, kind of give you another reason to keep going a little bit longer. We believe that all of these things are going to start to chip away at that manual retirement queue. We think if we can get horses to stay a little bit longer and get some breeding incentives in as a function of that first 10 races being a little bit more exciting, there's a lot more volume that happens there. Most horses are retiring between 5 and 10 races, so we know that's where this queue is really building up. This is an area that we're going to start to tackle. So I'm not going to promise that this will solve it right away and that we're going to get to that target 5% forced retirements a day, but it is a critical KPI for us. It shows us that the racing pool is constantly growing over time, which is obviously very important to the game, very important to our overall thesis for the way that ZED Champions and the ZED token economy work. So it's something we pay close attention to, and it's all part of a bigger strategy here.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to shout out DB Racing. She said she's here anonymously, but she's enjoying staking. And so I just wanted to say hey. And then also, next question, when can we expect a better staking UI, one that accurately displays what your stake is, what the original stake was, what percentage you're up or down on your stake? Because Top Me Up is getting tired of writing down every stake he makes in his notes app.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I certainly understand, even through our play tests, of once you start staking more than a few times, it can really start to be hard to track. We do have some planned UI changes coming up in the short term. Those are going to be more focused on the actual staking process of when you're putting a stake in, but certainly would love to, well, definitely we will be following up with more UI changes. Our initial version of staking, actually, one day maybe we'll share the design of that. It did look like a spreadsheet, so we didn't want to make it more complicated and more, I guess, over the top than it had to be. But at the same time, we certainly dialed it down and can add in some of these features to help people understand and track their progress a little more cleanly. So yeah, happy to hear more about what people want with staking for sure.
Cool, thank you. Are there any plans to adjust points per win or anything else to increase the runway for new horses?
Yeah, so I'll elaborate further on the overall thing. We're trying to get forced retirements out, et cetera. This is a little bit of a different issue where horses are basically, I know there's this big thing about the balanced matchmaking. The situation we're ending up in is that the new horses, the 4.5 stars, the really good sprint trait, speed trait horses, are getting so much stake on them right away that they separate from the pack aggressively, right? So they end up in these situations where, because those horses aren't that common in the early races of their career, they're ending up essentially in 1v1s, right? Where there's only 2 big, highly staked horses in the race. If you don't win, you're screwed, right? Because there's not enough balance coming from all the other horses that are participating. This is something that we want to pay attention to as a way to make sure that we are getting enough liquidity within those first 5 races, 10 races, that there's a reason to stake there for all horses, not just the best. And we continue to keep that as a focus in the game. Now, the actual matchmaking points, this is definitely something that we can change. It's definitely something that we're open to adjusting and taking a look at. Right now, we're a little bit, we're sort of comfortable with the way that we have this big kind of distribution clouding around, 1,000. Most horses move up or down. And then there are not really enough moving into kind of that middle ground, right? It's really because all these horses are retiring race 6, 7, and 8, we're not having a bunch of horses in the middle ground of MMR, right? So it's either make it or you don't. So that is something that we need to pay close attention to. I can't promise that we're going to make any changes to that this season. It's something that we would kind of use as a last resort because it is one of the most stabilizing things within the game right now. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on that. And it is a good suggestion that we're considering.
Oops, awesome. I'm just scrolling through the chat. There's a lot of chat.
There's
scroll really well here.
Yeah. Kaiju had a good question.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Will the number of stud slots or studs being born be altered to increase the amount of possible studs in the barn?
Yes. So the stud slots TBD, but the amount of studs being born is actually being they're being increased this week. So right now, or before today, it was 25 and 75%, 25% being studs, 75% being mares. We've increased it from 25 to 35% of studs and 65% mares. We didn't want to do too much of an increase. We did talk about maybe a 50-50 split. I don't think we're there yet, but a 10% increase, and then we're going to continue to evaluate the stud population. But that is live today.
Ooh, there you go. Matchmaking, you should not move up when you lose money.
Yeah, so this is a function of the matchmaking and the balanced matchmaking algorithms being separate systems, right? And there was obviously a bunch of debate on whether or not to use balance as matchmaking within this game early on in the designs. We basically decoupled those systems for a couple of reasons. One, because of the potential for manipulation before rounds start by throwing on a huge stake, etc. And then obviously the fact that we didn't have staking when we went live, so we needed to have some other way to move horses around. Now, the 1v1 situation, right, where the only way you really move up and lose money is second or third place, right? Second place is happening relatively often early on in horses' careers because of these kind of 1v1 setups, because of the lack of competition density. You really end up with maybe only 1, 4, 4.5 star in their race for the first couple races of their career, and they're racing against horses with 10 times less balance than them, right? So it's not really a function of the matchmaking algorithm why they're losing balance and moving up, right? So unless we changed the positions for second place or started to integrate the two systems together more intimately, aka you can't move up if your balance depreciated and we edit your MMR rating, that's not something that's out of the question, but that's a pretty complex system that if we start to walk down that road, there will be arguments why don't we just use balance as matchmaking. So again, this is something we're paying close attention to. We really want to make sure that horses in the early stages of their careers don't end up in situations where being a good horse is bad for you, right? I understand that that's kind of what's happening now. If you get second place because there are another 4 stars in your race or 4+ stars in your race, and you guys both got, staked up to 200K, yeah, you guys both get killed depending on who wins, right? And then you both move up into the next area, and then that can happen over and over again. And you guys basically, at a loss, swap your way up to higher MMR where you actually race against horses of higher balance. It's something that we're paying attention to, but yeah, it is a much more complex system to just start moving around everything and integrating the two. We will keep them separate for a little bit, but like I had mentioned previously, we could look at MMR and exactly how quick you move up.
Okay, bounty program imbalance. Bounties appear to disproportionately benefit high-value or well-funded accounts. The current structure lacks fairness or accessibility for lower budget or new players. Can you share any details in regards to how you plan to address this?
I think we talked about
imbalance?
this one a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll release more details next week, but retention is going away, and the weekly, I'll just say it, the bids and the weekly burns are going away, and then we are going to reassess what we are giving out with the current daily bounties. All of that will be released next week.
Okay. The chat has gone quiet. So does anyone here want to step up and talk on the mic, or we want to just wrap it up?
I think we did have Icicles. You were requested to talk if you still want to. Anyone else in the next 5 minutes can jump in.
Do we have a day for next week when it goes live?
Well, we're shooting for Monday, but no promises. But the quicker the better. Icicles is requesting to speak. Going to approve. Might take a couple seconds.
Is it happening?
Icicles, can you speak? Approved. I guess not. AMA wind filters. Filters are coming in pretty quickly as fast follows. We have the marketplace filters like we talked about and the auction filters being a part of the quick win fixes. And then we have the leaderboard filters and the stable filters as fast follows. That will be before season 1 ends. I suppose my advice is out. I'm not sure.
No.
But I think we can wrap up then.
I think so too. I'll hand over to you, Ian, to do the wrap.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming to this AMA. Like I said, we'll continue to do these more regularly, hopefully on a monthly basis. And I have 100 Riz, definitely not 0 Riz like Pushin and Lupo are talking about in the chat. If you want, you guys can go listen to our ZED Champions and ZED Picks walkthrough videos, which features my voice. And I wish everyone a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Adios.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.